Hi guys, and welcome to my final reading wrap up for the month of March. This one is a readathon that took place on K-Books Life Reading Club. This is a group that I am a part of on Discord. Now I am not very active on Discord as far as commenting. I generally just kind of scroll and see what people are saying, and I hardly comment. I do comment more on my own Discord group. Autism Reads, I do feel like where I created that, I do have to be more active than I am on all the other Discord groups that I'm a part of. So there's that. So this one was a readathon for the month of March. This is the Shamrock Readathon. So the focus was a readathon centered around St. Patrick's Day and stuff like that. So this was fun. Now, there were points that you could get by pages. And obviously if the book that you read fit the prompt, you got more points. If it did not, obviously less points, but you still get points by pages, whether it fits the prompt or not. I did not count. Did I count the points? Not on every book did I count them. So I'm not going to worry about telling you the points because I only did about half of them. So we're just going to leave it at that. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this. There's a total of 17 prompts. I did not complete all of the prompts, but let's tell you what I did complete and what I did not, and if I completed, what book I completed it with. So prompt number 1 is Leprechaun, a green, yellow, or gold cover. So this one is mostly a pink cover, but there's green on the cover. So for whatever reason, I wrote this down. Don't know if it really counts, but I did read it. There's green in the trees. There's green in, like some of her hair is green and her hair tie is green. There's the birds that are showing here among the trees are green. But I don't know if this would really count, but this is what I read. I gave this one 3 stars. Excuse me. 3 stars. It was fine. The writing was good. Okay, Talia Hibbert's writing is good. I've read other books by Talia Hibbert. I've read the adult books. This is her first YA, and it's the standard writing style of Talia Hibbert, and I liked it. What I did not like was the amount of negative attitude and complaining and things like that, where that outweighed the trying to figure things out. And I felt at the point of the book where the characters, now granted they're 18, 17, 18, around there, the point where they're trying to have their aha moment and figure things out, figure things that they can change, things they can't change, all of that, and trying to change what they can was a little too late in the book. I felt like there was too much negativity for the most of the book, and I really don't like the negative attitudes. This is a YA romance. It's friends to enemies to acquaintances where they just tolerate each other to possible love interest to love interest. So yeah, you're following Brad and Celine. You have OCD rep, you have anxiety rep, and I felt like, and Talia Hibbert does such a good job of including that rep and showing how it can really affect people, especially in this case with the OCD. You really see the intrusive thoughts that the person has and how debilitating those thoughts can be and how hard it can be to break yourself from those thoughts in that particular situation. And you recognize that it's not realistic, it's not reality, and you recognize it for what it is, but it does not make it any easier to try and get yourself out of that situation with those intrusive thoughts. That was very well done. The writing was very beautiful, was very well done. It's your standard Talia Hibbert writing, and I love the diversity, I love the representation in this, and I enjoyed the writing. There's just too much negativity for my taste, so I am going to unhaul it. I'm going to let someone else enjoy this book. I'm going to let it find a new home and go from there. I did like the rep with Celine, the feelings that Celine had with her, basically of abandonment with her dad because her parents divorced. Her dad basically went and found a mistress to a new wife or whatever, and the abandonment that you feel, I felt like all of that was done very well. The feelings that Celine had, or feelings that I had with my dad going and finding a new family and divorcing my parents getting divorced. So those are feelings and thoughts that I had. I saw those with Celine. And so that was very well done, very realistic. Just too much negative attitude and complaining, in my opinion. I think if there was more of a can-do, trying to fix things, and this is what I'm going to do, great. I think there was a lot of, also, the other thing I don't like in books, I mean, I tolerate it to a certain point, and I felt like this was just kind of pushing the edge of my tolerating it, someone being full of themselves, narcissistic, and I'm better than thou type of a thing. I don't like that. So there were a couple of aspects that I didn't like, but that's my own personal preference. Those are things I do not like to read about. So if you don't mind that stuff or you enjoy it, then you will more than likely like this book much more than I did. But because those are things that I particularly hate reading about and having in books, and I can tolerate it only to a certain point, and then after that point, it just brings it down for me. And that's what happened with this book. If those aspects were not as much in here, I would have enjoyed this more. And Celine and Brad are neighbors, you know, so you do have that as well. So it's like the girl next door type of a trope, or the boy next door type of a trope is what you have as well. It's your standard YA romance, and again, there's too much negativity for my taste. So I don't really know what else to say about this. Celine wants to become a lawyer in or around her dad's field, because her dad is a lawyer, just so she can try to stick it to the man type of a thing, to this man that left her, and say, look what you've missed out on. And so you're seeing her work through those feelings. And then obviously with Brad and the OCD, you're seeing him work through a lot of him working through those intrusive thoughts, and how intrusive those thoughts can be, with the fear of letting someone that you care for down in your family, of like saying, I'm going to go into this field when really you'd rather go into a completely different field, like a lawyer versus a police officer, or a lawyer versus a writer, or like a teacher versus a lawyer. I don't know. The lawyer is the big thing in this book, so I keep going back to that. So there was a lot of things that were very well done and well handled and well written in this book. Again, too much negativity and narcissism in this book for my taste, so it's finding a new home, because I just won't reread it. Okay, prompt number 2, Luck of the Irish. So this is to read a book that has luck or lucky in the title. I did not get to this one. Number 3, St. Patrick, published in March of any year. So this one I read on The Edge of Gone by Corinne. Duyvis, I know I'm saying that wrong, and I heard how to pronounce it, but I can't remember. This is a YA dystopian post-apocalyptic. You're following Denise. She is autistic. It does talk about her being mixed race, and she talks a lot about the black aspect of her race, and how that has impacted her, as a lot more focus on the autism. And you have transgender rep in this, someone that Denise, who is the main character, loves and cares for, is transgender. You have lesbian rep in this, someone that Denise knows is a lesbian. And so you have that. You have someone that loses someone that they care about, and they are part of the Jewish religion. And so you have this, then talk about this whole week of mourning. That was interesting. And I actually heard someone talk about that. And so that was a real thing. And so that was authentic in here. The author is autistic, and you're following basically, okay, so this takes place in Amsterdam, and there's this comet that's speeding towards Earth, and it's going to end civilization as we know it. So people are trying to find underground bunkers so that they can survive. Or in this case, there's people going on a spaceship that they have placed strategically where it won't be hit by the comet, and they're hoping that they'll be able to get it so that shortly after the impact they'll be able to repair what needs to be repaired so they can take off into space while Earth kind of heals itself from this impact. You have devastations, natural disaster devastations that take place after the comet. It's like the comet hits, and then it just kind of throws all these natural disasters into chaos. So you have earthquakes, you have flooding. One of Denise's special interests are cats. I'm going to tell you this now because I wish I would have known about this, because this was very unsettling and disturbing to me. Basically, with trying to survive, people have to abandon their cats. Excuse me. They have to abandon their cats, and a lot of people have resorted to taking their cats and abandoning them at a veterinary clinic, where the veterinarian has to put the animals to sleep, basically has to kill them by injection, because people don't want their cats to suffer. They don't know if the impact will kill the cat, or if the cat will end up dying in an earthquake, if there's any fires, if the cat will survive any flooding, things like that. So they don't want their cats to suffer. I get that. I totally get that. And the unfortunate thing, and the realistic thing, is as people are trying to come together as a community into these little survival bunkers, the food that's provided is meant for humans. People are not worried about the animals. And so you cannot bring your pet, because it's going to take away food meant that someone else could have. Someone could feed their child. Someone could feed their grandmother or whatever. So pets basically are not allowed. And so people are having to have their cats put down. People are also wanting to euthanize their cats, or have them euthanized, because they don't want their cat that's had this luxurious life have to suffer by starving to death because they don't know how to hunt, because they've had such a sedentary, sheltered life where everything's been provided. They don't know how to hunt for themselves. They don't want them to get into a fight and be picked off by a bigger animal and eaten by a bigger animal, including a human. And, you know, humans will eat what they need to eat, and that is edible in order to be able to survive. And so they don't want their cats being hunted down and eaten by humans as well. So that is touched upon. And I wish I would have known that going into the book, because that was very shocking, unnerving, unsettling to me. I wish I would have known that going in. So that's why I tell you that now. Denise is, you also have drug addiction in this. And Denise, so I just mentioned that because someone Denise knows is addicted to drugs. And there's a lot of talk about that. You're following Denise as she's kind of learning more about herself. She's growing into herself. She's just finished schooling. And she's trying to, basically her mom and Denise and her mom end up on the ship. And they say, you can be here for the impact, but right when we're ready to take off, you have to leave. You're not welcome on the ship after that. You cannot shower. You cannot have over a certain amount of food or certain types of food, because they are reserved for people that are authorized to be on the ship. So you're following that, and Denise is doing everything that she can to find a way to be useful, so that they will say, you know what, you are useful, you're indispensable, you can be on the ship, so that she has a place to survive and live, and things like that. You do follow her as she does have these little meltdowns. I say little, but I really shouldn't say little. She has these meltdowns because they're not little. For the person going through the meltdown, they're not little. She has meltdowns. You're following her. She has the process. You see her as she recognizes that the fact that this is going to happen, and what she does to try to calm herself and get herself out of certain situations. You see the reality of people thinking she's weird and not understanding that she's autistic. And then once they do, you kind of see the and then they start to understand and cope, and people adapt with how they talk and treat her. Not with kid gloves, but that just so that she'll understand things. And things like that, to make it so that they can have a potential for a friendship type of a thing. So I enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. This was published March 8th of 2016. So definitely fulfills the prompt. Okay, next one. Prompt number 4 is legendary. Read a book with a main character that has red hair, basically is what that is. Feedback by Mira Grant. This is book number 4 in the News Flesh series. Mira Grant is a pen name for Shauna McGuire. This is following the exact same timeline and events of book number 1, so I can't really say much. Although this one, so book number 1, you're following these people that are independent news reporters, and they are hired to follow a presidential candidate. Book number 1, the presidential candidate that's being followed is a Republican. In this book, the presidential candidate is a Democrat. So you're getting a completely different political perspective, which was very interesting. Different characters, but the characters from book number 1 are referenced quite a bit in this book as well. The main character in this one, I don't remember her name. She is from Ireland, and it does talk about her red hair a lot. So it definitely fits the prompt. You have LGBT rep, because you do have someone that's non-binary that uses they, them pronouns. And it's just following the political campaign. this is during, this is during a time, so this is during a time of life when, as a people, we have created the cure for the common cold, with the cure from cancer and all this other stuff. But in so doing, there's a super virus or super bug called Callus amberley that lives in every single person. When people and even animals are over a certain weight threshold, there's the potential for them to do what is called an amplification, which means you die and then you come back to life as a flesh-eating zombie. So you're having to, they're going along this political campaign, a lot of zombies are encountered, and so it's a lot of trying to survive. So, and you're trying to see, is there someone in the realm who is trying to kill off or dissuade a certain party so someone else can win, or is someone just out for an evil vendetta and are trying to kill a bunch of people with zombies? So you're following a lot of that, and I like this, and there's not much I can say about this book, but 4 stars. This is the last book in the News Flesh series, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So main character again from Ireland and has a flaming red hair and an attitude to match. That is mentioned in the book. So book number 5 is Over the Rainbow. Read a book set in Europe. I did not do this one. Prompt number 6 is Charms. Read a book centered around friendship or found family. So this one, I read a book that is centered around friendship. It is a graphic novel, and this is going to be finding a new home. This is a book that I felt like was very beloved on YouTube. Probably still is. It was talked a lot about, and it was very much hyped, and it let me down. Definitely not my thing. Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. This is centered around the friendship between the 2 characters that you're seeing here. They start out as co-workers, and they've worked together for years at this pumpkin patch type of a thing in a succotash hutch. And excuse me, I don't know why I'm having trouble there. So you're seeing their friendship, you're seeing some realizations, and I just felt like there was some stuff that was very immature. Granted, they're 18, but this is also their senior year of high school, so they're supposed to have, I mean, yeah, there's going to be some immaturity because they're young adults, but at the same time, at that age, I would expect a certain amount of maturity when it comes to work, and that just was not there. So I think if this would have gone a different route, I would have liked it more. You know, if rather than trying to chase down this girl, I felt like they were like saying they were going to help people, but then they would let the people down by running off before they could finish what they said they were going to help them with. There was a lot of that. They went around from place to place trying to find this particular girl that this guy has had, the main male character has had a crush on for years. And they're kind of saying, oh, I'll help you. They do something for like 5 minutes and then they run off to the next place. I did not like that. If you say you're going to help someone, help them and until the task is completed. Or if you have a timeline, say, I can help you for 10 minutes, I can help you for 30 minutes, but then I have to go to this other place. So that's what I didn't like, is there was a lot of, I felt like there was a lot of deceiving as far as like, oh, I'm going to help out, and then they do something for 2 minutes and then they run off, or they don't. I just felt like things could have been handled differently. I felt like if they were to have said, and this I would have found more realistic and more relatable, I guess. I think if they would have said, you know what, it's our last day working here. I don't know the term, but basically let's just skip off of work and go have some fun and see what all this is about. And then see them go and experience life as patrons at the place, rather than saying they're going to help someone and then kind of skip off. You know, that's what really bugged me, and it really is one of my pet peeves. And so that kind of bugged me. So 2 stars, could have been done better in my opinion, and was a letdown. So, I mean, the artwork was good. I did enjoy the artwork in here. That's pretty much all I can say about that one. So let's go ahead and move on. Prompt number 7 is Banshee. Read a book that has a betrayal. So this one I read, I'm counting Through the Magic Sunglasses. I gave this one 1 star. I won this one from Goodreads, so this was on my Kindle. I have since deleted it. I absolutely did not like this book. I did read it because it is such a short story. The betrayal I count is when you enter into a relationship, like this main character did. She was married, She is running from an abusive relationship. That's what I count the betrayal. You do not enter into a relationship expecting to be abused. And I think that is a huge act of betrayal and disrespect when someone starts to abuse you. And so she's leaving that. And so that's why I say that has a betrayal in it. She flees to, I think, Germany. She ends up at a party. She ends up finding this USB. People are threatening her, saying you need to give us the USB back because they think she stole it. And it just goes from there. And basically she puts in the USB in her computer and sees these women having an orgy. And then it just goes from there. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I can say about that. I did not enjoy it. I felt like certain decisions that were made were unrealistic, and this could have gone a completely different route and been handled differently. So 1 star, it's off of my Kindle and gone. Okay, so yes. All right, prompt number 8 is Carol Moore. This is read a book that features a dual timeline. This one I went with Once and For All by Sarah Dessen. This one we're following Luna. And we're following 2 different timelines for Luna. One is more of like a memory timeline, but it still goes into the past with a particular boyfriend and how they met, how they fell in love, and then this tragic event that happened, and then her finding out about this tragic event, and then the fallout from that. That's the first one. The second timeline is modern day Luna working for her mother. Her mother owns with this guy who's just a cinnamon roll. He is so sweet. This does his LGBT rep because the partner of this wedding planning business that her mother owns is partly owned by this guy who's gay, and you do see him flirt with this one guy at the deli. It is so sweet. It is so cute. But it's wedding planning business, and Luna is helping out with that. The modern timeline follows her as there's this guy that's hired that's Luna's age. She is 18 or 17. It's basically the end of her senior year, so you're leading up to graduation and then after graduation, which is just, the after graduation is just a very small part of the book. And it's a standard young adult coming of age. You're following with the romance as they kind of deny their feelings for each other. But there's really that secret, I'm really interested in this person type of a thing. But of course with the young adult, even with adult, but I think with young adult, it's harder to identify those feelings at times. It can be with adults, but for young adults, because they're so young and immature with life, it is harder to identify those feelings sometimes. But yeah, so it does have those 2 timelines. Major trigger for school shooting. Okay. That I was not expecting that going in because it is not depicted on the synopsis on the back, but definitely something to be aware of. So just be aware going into this does have a school shooting, and it was hard to read. And again, where it's not in the synopsis, this is definitely, especially with all the school shootings that have been happening in the United States recently, definitely something that I think you should be aware of going into this. But I enjoyed this one. I gave this 4 stars. I tend to enjoy all of Sarah Dessen's books. So prompt number 9 was Celebrate. This is to read a diverse read. This one I slotted in City Dark by Roger A. Canaf. This was a mystery thriller. This was a library book. I ended up giving this one 3 stars, but it would have been a low 3 stars. You're following 2 different kind of timelines. One is when the main character was a child and is basically abandoned by his mother when there's this huge blackout in the city, and him and his brother are trying to make their way to their uncle's house. The modern day is there's a murder. This one guy is being a suspect for the murder, and you're following his perspective for a little bit. And one of the reasons he's a suspect is he gets so drunk that he can't remember anything, so he can't produce an alibi because he can't remember where he's been, what he's done, what he said, who he saw, anything like that. You're also following the perspective from his lawyer, And you're also following a perspective from police investigators as they're trying to investigate this. So it's got a couple of different POVs. The reason why this is a diverse read is because it is racially diverse, and that is mentioned a couple of times. It's not a big part of the book. It doesn't change anything. It just mentions that someone has brown skin or darker skin. And if I remember right, now this was a library book, and so I don't remember if it even mentioned any like ethnicities or anything like that other than someone just having darker skin. So, but it is a diverse read. And I gave that one 3 stars. It was fine. I listened to the audiobook with that, and I felt like the audiobook was too rough and gruff. I think I would have enjoyed it more had I have not listened to the audiobook while I read it. So just straight up read it is my suggestion. Book number 10, or prompt number 10, is Pot of Gold. Read a book that is published between 2013 and 2023. This one I read an ebook, and it's book number 2.5 in a Kitchen Witch mystery series written by Lynn Cahoon. This is titled Have a Holly Haunted Christmas. It is a novella. All I can say about this one is Mia has purchased a school that is basically no longer in use in Idaho and has converted it to a catering business. And in this particular book, she is a witch, and this ghost pops up and wants her and her boyfriend to figure out why and who she was murdered by. So you're following the adventures in a short story as they try to figure out what happened to this ghost before this ghost completely ceases to exist. So it was fun. It's enjoyable. It's very fun, cozy mystery, and the antics that happen and pop up are just really fun to read. I highly recommend this series. Again, the series is called the Kitchen Witch Mystery Series, written by Lynn Cahoon. Thoroughly enjoyable. Okay, prompt number, I only have 2 more that I read, books that I read, so this will be really quick. Prompt number 11 was Quaint, and this is to read a book with your favorite trope. This one I slotted in Matched by Condie. Again, after I read this, I found out this is a local to me author. She does live in Utah, somewhere outside of Salt Lake. I gave this one 4 stars. With a dystopian book, my favorite trope is to have an area where the character lives that is so heavily controlled by the government that they start to have a rebellion because they realize that things are not quite right. The government has overreached, and so they're trying to overthrow and overpower. So that's my favorite trope in dystopian books, and that's basically what you have. You're following Cassie as she starts to figure things out. This government controls when you die. Everyone dies at the age of 80. They control who you marry. You don't marry for love. You are matched with someone, and that's who you marry. The type of food and the amount of food you eat is controlled. You don't have all the works of art in the world. It's reduced down to 100 works of poetry, and you're not supposed to know anything outside of that. 100 works of movies, and again, everything's just done on repeat. And same thing with music. There's like 100 pieces that you can listen to, and that is it. So the rebellion starts small with someone finding a piece of poetry or a stanza from a poetry that is not approved by the government, and then they memorize it and share it, and that's how the rebellion starts, and you watch it continue to grow. So first book in a series, and so I look forward to see how that rebellion is going to continue, what's going to be done, and what's going to happen. So I look forward to that. Okay, prompt number 12 is Limerick. This is to read a book with a title starting with either I or M. I did not complete that prompt. 13 is Coins. Read a book with the 6 words in the title. I did not do that. 14 is Magical. Features dragons or fae. Did not get to that one. Same thing with Fortune, which is to read a nonfiction. And I started a nonfiction, but I did not finish it. Right now I am currently reading Decoding Your Cat, which is all about having to decipher how your cat holds their postures. Are they aggravated? Are they happy and healthy and things like that? So I am working on that, but as of right now, filming this, I'm only about 150 pages in. Prompt number 16 is Quest, to read a book that has a castle or a flag on the cover. I did not do that. And number 17, this is the last prompt. It is Clover, to read a book with a number in the title. This book is up in my room, but this is a cozy mystery, so I can't tell you much about this other than it's your standard cozy mystery. There's a dead body. Someone is suspected. In this particular book, so the title is 3 Tainted Teas by Lynn Cahoon. It's the 3rd book in a Kitchen Witch mystery series, which is the one I previously talked about. This particular one, Mia is hired to be a wedding planner. She has not done anything in the wedding business before, so they hire her not for her catering, but for a wedding business. I'm almost done. and there's a dead body, and she inserts herself into the investigation. They do find that she is at risk. Her life is in danger, but she still inserts herself into the investigation, wants to figure out what happened to this particular dead body, who killed him, and what's going on with that. You have shapeshifters as far as shifting from human into werewolves, as well as witches in this. So it's very magical and it's very enjoyable. And it's the standard cozy mystery format. Dead body, who's the suspect, main character inserts themselves in the investigation, and then it's resolved. So standard cozy mystery, but it doesn't mean that it's any less fun. It's thoroughly enjoyable. It's the little details that make it fun and enjoyable. So that's all that I read for, what was this called? The Shamrock Readathon. Yeah, the Shamrock Readathon. So I will try to link the Discord that I'm a part of that has this, so that you can join if you would like for future readathons. And it was really fun. So let me know what your favorite book was for the month of March, and talk to me in the comment section below. Until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book, and I'll talk to you later.